Good morning, Lowestoft. This is Esther checking in on a Friday morning for our 10:30-ish morning ramble, thought for the day, whatever it is. I hope you're all okay. How are you doing this Friday morning? If you're listening, send us a message. Let me know how it is, whether it's a good day so far, a bad day, what you're doing with the day. Ours has been a bit harassed this morning, I think it would be fair to say. But that's okay, and it's Friday, and for some reason it still feels good that it's a Friday, even though we're not really at work or anything like that. Yes. um, do you know what my thoughts this morning have been about journey and where we're going? And weirdly, it sort of come out of we were watching Iron Man with my daughter last night. Like, she'd never seen it before, she hasn't seen any of the Marvel films, really, and she absolutely loved it. Don't know if you're into it or care or the least, but generally the story is Tony Stark is a weapons manufacturer. He totally loves his lifestyle, he's loaded, he does whatever he wants, he's totally happy with it all until he's kidnapped and tortured by terrorists, and he sees the world from this totally different viewpoint that he just hadn't comprehended before. He sees that his weapons are fueling war, not preventing it, and he's completely changed, like totally, by this epiphany, and he decides to use his skills and technology for good, to see his life's purpose differently, and he becomes Iron Man, which is just very cool. And we loved it. But I think there's something that we love about it. Like, we love Tony Stark, but we're all on a journey of discovering things about ourselves and the world, aren't we? And having to work out how to respond to it. And if we're honest, like I said on Wednesday, our histories are all pretty suspect in some ways, and we're trying to work out how to be now. And at times we're still pretty destructive and selfish with that. But I think we all relate to the concept of life as a journey, don't we, that we're on. It's really cliched, I realise that. It's one of those cliches, like, life is a journey. Yes, it is, but it's sort of a cliche because it's true. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're still the same person, believing exactly the same things now that you did a few years ago, you've probably got a bit stuck, haven't you, on that journey? Like, do you remember that Friends episode where Monica dates the guy from high school, and it's like dating the guy when he was in high school, because he just hasn't changed at all? Let's not be like that. Let's be people that evolve and grow and change. And in a deep way, you know, the Jesus story is one with identity and journey at the heart of it. Like, you may just be like, oh, please don't talk to me about religion. That's fine, I'm not going to talk to you about religion. But the Jesus tradition talks about who we are. It questions in big ways, like who you are and who do you want to be, what path are you journeying on. And it also zooms in on individual people and individual races of people and asks that question of them too. Like, there's a messy history in the Jesus tradition. There's a messy history in our tradition, isn't there, in our lives? And we were having this like nationwide debate at the minute, aren't we? Do we write off people because of the mess in their history, or do we learn from them and their flaws? Like, are we just going to write each other off? I hope not, I think. So I'm just going to talk a bit about journey this morning from the Jesus tradition. So there's this race of people that the tradition focuses in on. They live in Egypt, like this is ancient times, and they are accepted there and they are loved. But over time, the story says that, like, the people around them change and they feel threatened by them, and eventually they turn on them and they make them into slaves. And I just thought, do you know what? Isn't that so much of a story of like daily life on a small scale for us? Like, you're ticking over and it's all good, and then you start to grow and you start to change and you start to become, and that can really threaten the people around you, can't it? And people can just really turn on you, can't they? Maybe in small ways, like they're mocking you, snide comments about who you are, not getting in touch so much. Maybe you don't get that promotion at work, or you're not invited to that party, or like you're on one of the Lowestoft Facebook sites and you say you're in favour of some political viewpoint or some other, and people give you abuse abuse. Like, it's like who you are is no longer okay. I think we live with that in all sorts of ways, don't we? Or maybe you found that you have become a slave to some things that were once good, you know? Like, looking good is great, but when it's all about selfies and Insta feeds and obsession, maybe you've just become a slave to worrying about what people think of you. Like, it's great to have a drink to chill out, you know, but in lockdown, maybe you're becoming aware that you're not in control of that anymore, that you've become a slave to that. Or maybe being content with your own company has led to a fear of getting close to other people. Or maybe it's your past, you're a slave to that because you just can't get close to people. Like, we all have different ways that we're slaves to things on this journey, aren't we? And the people in this story in Egypt suffered this on a massive scale. Like, we're talking brutality, murder, slavery, oppression, all of those things that are really big hot topics in our society at the minute, like the history that we have and the way we treat people. And in this story, this race of people, they've become slaves in what had been a really good place. And you know, as we fight for equal rights now, as we move out of lockdown, as we all have different opinions about everything, let's just not become slaves to bitching and cynicism and blame, you know, or a slave to thinking that we all have to think the same way and people aren't allowed their opinions. Like, that will keep you oppressed. It won't actually keep you free. Do you know what I mean? So these people in this story who are slaves, they call out to God to save them. Like, when we're stuck, we all call out, don't we, in some way, to something, to ourselves, to other people, to the divine that we don't even necessarily believe in. We call out. And over time, in a series of ways that I'm not going to go into, he does rescue them. He gives them a leader. Heard of the name Moses? Ring a bell? And then he leads them through what is called in hindsight the Exodus, like a mass departure of people. And he frees them from one place, and God promises to take them somewhere new, somewhere better, somewhere that's theirs, you know, where they'll have their own identity as they follow him. And it struck me that the world's in some kind of mass exodus at the moment, isn't it? Like, we're coming out of lockdown all over the world from a place where we've been stuck, where we maybe have been scared, where we're not free, where homes have become prisons, where we've been isolated, where relationships have been really strained or you haven't been able to see people, where we've maybe collapsed under the pressure of it, or maybe we've been fighting it, and everything in between. And I just wondered how you're coping with the uncertainty of this new place. Like, can you see friends? How will school look? Will kids be able to sit their exams? Like, can you go and hang out with your mates in the park? Like, can we have people in our homes? Who can and who can't? How do we choose who to meet? Should we wear a face mask when we're out? Should we not? Do we hate the government or do we trust them? Like, how do I feel about myself now I'm coming out of this very strange place? Because I just think journey from one thing to the next is always really uncertain, isn't it? Like, the journey from slavery to freedom, we long for it in all the small ways that we're slaves and all of the big ways that society is oppressive. But then we discover that it's not easy. Like, it's not easy. You want to be free from your anxiety? Don't we want to be free from our demons? Do you want to get a handle on that alcohol intake? Do you want to be free from the fear that people are going to reject you, that you're not beautiful enough? Like, we all want to be free. But it's really hard. The question is, I guess, are we prepared to take the first steps? Makes me ponder really on that for myself. Because the race of people in question in this story, they get their freedom. They leave Egypt, and then it's a desert that they're in, and they are thirsty and they are hungry, and they look back on their slavery with rose-tinted glasses. Like, at least we were fed there and we had a bed. I mean, like, really? Like, these people have seen miracles to set them free. Like, God isn't an abstract concept to be debated to them, but a reality that they live and they breathe. Like, nature has been subject to this God to set them free. They've seen impossible situations change and a freedom they never thought they would have. And now that freedom's hard and they're tired and they are whining like a toddler that hasn't had enough drink. No, I haven't had my milk today. And we all do that, don't we? Like, it just made me think about myself. We're on this journey of life and we have suffered with it. Mentally, we find we're slaves to negativity, anxiety we can't shift, or we're slaves to past experiences. Like, we might be slaves to habits and people and situations. And in lockdown, we have screamed against isolation and fear. And now the government is offering ways out and we whine. Like, and now that I think within that the divine comes and speaks to us, and I think that he says to us in our whining, as we want to be free, as we're now stuck in the desert of uncertainty, like we just don't know how to be free of our demons and ourselves, and how to be free as we come out of lockdown, the divine speaks to us. And I think he says, do you know what, I'm in the business of healing and wholeness and freeing you from your past and freeing you from the place you're in. I'm in the business of leading you to something new, but that too is a journey, and I will hold your hand in it and take you forward. But don't think it's going to be simple or easy. It's not a wave of a magic wand. And I think, do you know what, within that we just whine, don't we? And I get that too. I whine, I really do. But this particular story of this particular people being freed from being slaves, to then ending up in this middle place in the desert of uncertainty, to then finding their place in their own land, that's our story, isn't it? Like, over and over and over. And I think it's God's big story too, you know? Like, Jesus said he is the way through all of this. Like, he is the truth. Like, don't you want to follow what is true in this shifting landscape of opinions? And he said he is life. Like, he is the vibrancy and the freedom you long for. And it's found in this story. So, I don't know, you may feel like you're a slave at the minute to so many different things, like to yourself, to your past, still in lockdown, maybe in isolation, slave to fear, slave to addictions, slave to just, I want to look good and I want people to like me, so I'm a people pleaser. Or maybe you're in the desert, you know, maybe you're trying to break free, but you're in that hard middle ground of you're trying to leave one place but you're not quite at the next, you're not quite free yet, you don't really know what it looks like. And I think as we emerge from lockdown, you know, I think we're all in the desert in some way. But just as God led that race of people into a new place, the story of the Jesus tradition is that he does the same for you, you know. So don't try and do it without a guide. Like, as you want to move away from all the ways that you're stuck in life to new places of self-discovery and identity and acceptance, like, hear the voice of Jesus across the decades as he says to you on this journey, I know the way. In fact, I am the way because I'm the creator, the source of goodness and meaning. Like, I know the truth. In fact, I am the truth because I'm the source of all knowledge. And want to know who you really are? Like, I can tell you. And he says, I know life because I created it in its essence and I keep it going. So I think if you want to move forward, if all of us, we want to move forward, like from all the places that we're slaves and that we're stuck, through the desert of just trying to work it out where it gets tough, and we just wish we were back being slaves, which is stupid but really understandable, you know, because we all get there. As you want help as we leave lockdown, which I think we all do, we want to know how to process it and what is safe and what to do and how to be. As you want freedom from the baggage that you carry from the past, like, I just think that Jesus, that the divine, that the one who holds everything together, just says, breathe me in, you know, invite me in, drop those bags of baggage that you carry with you, those weights that hold you down, drop them into my hands and let me take you forward. Like, yeah, you may not believe in God, you may not believe in any of it, but I tell you what, trying to escape from all the ways that we're slaves and all the baggage that we have, without God, without the divine, without Jesus, who says, I bring freedom. That's what I'm all about. It's just so hard, and I honestly don't think we can do it. So I just invite you to consider what the source of life has to say to you. Are you feeling like you're a slave? Are you feeling like you're in a desert? Are you working your way out on this journey of life and trying to work out what it's all about? And so in it, may you know today that there is the possibility of moving forward in the journey, that you don't have to stay a slave, that you don't have to stay tied to all of the crap that you bring with you. May you know that if you're in the desert, if you're desperately just trying to get yourself free and into a new place, but you're in that middle ground of confusion, may you know that the divine meets you there. And if you want to be free and have a guide through life, find some truth that isn't just random opinions that are thrown around, may you look to Jesus, who said, I am the source and the sustainer and the one who tells you who you are and the way to go. We pray that you will find that today as you explore. Thank you for listening. I hope that makes sense. Ian says, Esther for Prime Minister. Oh my goodness, no, that would be terrible. I will be back on Monday with more thoughts for the day. If you're interested, I'm part of London Road Baptist Church, and we our church service, if you're wanting to explore faith and life and all of that, is on YouTube at London Road Baptist Church, and on our Facebook page on Sunday morning, and we'll be logging on to that. Do get in touch if you want to chat more, and the chaplaincy team will be out this afternoon and Monday and Friday afternoon next week praying for Lowestoft, like we believe in change for our town. So we'll be praying for you and for the town. Do get in touch if you need to hear from us. Take care, Lowestoft. Bye.